Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today for our Nature's Antidote to Constipation webinar. This topic is relevant to a lot of people. 1/3 of those over the age of 60 suffer from some level of chronic constipation. Many of you might already know me. My name is Cyrus. I'm the founder and formulator for Pure Lab Vitamins here in Ottawa. Before we start, a bit of info on this webinar. During and after this presentation, you can type questions in the Q&A section on your screen, but always keep in mind I will answer many of your early questions throughout this presentation. After the presentation comes my favorite part, where we'll answer all your questions one by one. Anyone registered for this webinar will receive a link to the recording in the next couple of days. It will also go up on our website and YouTube channel, where you'll find all other webinar recordings as well. So there's no need to take large volumes of notes. I'd rather like you to listen and follow the presentation. Okay, that's it. Let's get cracking. According to the Canadian Digestive Health Foundation, 1 in 4 Canadians report symptoms of constipation. That's 25% of the Canadian population. Our talking points today are: what is constipation? What are the symptoms and causes of constipation? What treatments are available? And then also we'll have a little excursion into IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome. So what is constipation? According to the Mayo Clinic, a person is constipated when their frequency of bowel movements is fewer than 3 times a week. And if this condition persists over several weeks, the individual is considered chronically constipated. Next to the fact that constipation is uncomfortable, it can make us very irritable and even unhappy. If it is chronic, it can lead to buildup of toxins in the body, even to the point of becoming nauseated. Mechanically, the longer it lasts, it can lead to colon distension and excessive bloating. And you can imagine a distended colon will even have more difficulty to move things forward. And it will take also a lot longer to reestablish healthy regularity. The commonly known warning signs of constipations are lumpy and hard stools. You might be straining during bowel movements. You might experience bloating throughout the day and night, and some people have a sensation of incomplete bowel movements. Common causes of constipation are low fiber diet, low water content of food, and overall low water intake. Insufficient exercise. And as a quick rule of thumb here, if constipation happens daily, then exercise needs to happen daily too. The number one cause of constipation is magnesium deficiency. And this has been studied many times over, and we'll discuss this in detail in a bit. But let me start with the other lesser known causes of constipation, like physical problems causing constipation. Quite a large group of people are dealing with different kinds of damage to the nerves that operate the smooth muscles responsible for moving food through the intestinal tract. And this rhythmic smooth muscle contraction is called peristalsis. Conditions where this kind of damage occurs are MS and Parkinson's, some spinal cord injuries, and certain kinds of strokes in those brain areas that regulate peristalsis. And then there are hormone disbalances that can affect the fluid balance in the body, for example in diabetes, hypothyroidism, or constipation during pregnancy. Other risk factors for constipation are gender. Women are actually twice as likely as men to be constipated. Age. Older adults and younger children are much more prone to constipation. And then certain medications can cause constipation, and here are the biggest culprits. Sedatives, especially benzodiazepines like lorazepam, clonazepam, and the like. Antihistamines like Benadryl or Gravol can constipate, but also the so-called second generation antihistamines like Claritin or Reactin. And recently, legally available cannabinoids can be constipating, especially oral CBD products. And then there are antacids, especially Tums, or other high calcium or aluminum products, because calcium is the body's contractor. It makes us tense, tight, angry, and constipated. Pain meds, especially opioids or narcotics, block you up very quickly, and codeine contained in Tylenol 1, 2, and 3 or other over-the-counter products is one of the worst. Blood pressure meds can constipate, especially calcium channel blockers like diltiazem or amlodipine, which is known as Norvasc, but also so-called beta blockers like metoprolol or atenolol. And finally, antidepressants. And here it is mostly the older generation of antidepressants, which today are used more often for insomnia or chronic pain, and those are amitriptyline or nortriptyline, but also trazodone. So this was meant to provide you with an overview of causes and risk factors, even though most of you obviously know that you are dealing with constipation. But this might give you some guidance on what is potentially causing your problem so that you can make informed and targeted changes if possible. So here are now the key lifestyle treatment areas for constipation. They are diet, hydration, and exercise, but also toilet routine and stress reduction. Starting with diet, try to increase your fiber intake with sufficient water at the same time. Include a minimum of 18 grams of fiber per day, better even 20 to 30 grams per day. And choose foods such as beans, veggies, fruit, and whole grains where possible, and calculate how much of these foods you'd have to consume to meet this daily fiber recommendation. It's actually good to get a visual on these amounts of food so that you don't have to weigh food all the time. Flaxseed and psyllium husks need to be mentioned here as well. They are a natural bulking agent, and especially the unground flaxseed works beautifully as a natural lubricant. Avoid all the gooey and sticky foods, especially refined starches like white flour products, as much as possible, and always make sure you have a tall glass of water with each meal. Reduce dairy because of its calcium content. Too much calcium constricts the smooth muscles of the gastrointestinal tract, which is responsible for the peristalsis. As said before, calcium is the body's contractor. It makes us tense, tight, angry, and constipated. Magnesium is the counteragent to calcium. Magnesium is our relaxer of muscle and mind. Next up is hydration. Increase your water intake and reduce juices, pop, coffee, tea, and alcohol. Coffee helps many people in the morning, but keep consumption down to just 1 or 2 cups in the morning. The big question is, how much water should we drink? And there's this old recommendation of 10 8-ounce glasses per day. And that can be quite hard for some. But if you are constipated today, try to at least double or triple your current water intake. That should be possible. Drinking water is a problem for so many people. They just can't get it down in larger quantities. To make it tastier, squeeze some fresh lemon juice into the water, or just add a little splash of apple juice just for flavor. Number 3 on our list of natural treatments is exercise. As said before, if constipation happens daily, then exercise needs to happen daily too. This helps move waste more effectively through the intestinal tract. Walking, hiking, biking are good activities, but also yoga. But any kind of activity and movement in general helps. Okay, let's talk about toilet routine. This is very important. Allow sufficient time for bowel movements. Try to stick to a schedule to promote regularity, mornings or after a specific meal. And never ignore the body's messaging. Give it priority. You can't or shouldn't say, not now. No, that's not really productive. Try using a footstool to elevate your thighs to improve your positioning on the throne. And finally, we have to have a look at stress. If your day already starts stressed, you are setting yourself up for constipation. Stress puts you into fight or flight mode. Stress hormones, cortisol, epinephrine, or adrenaline suppress the branch of our nervous system that activates and regulates digestion, the so-called parasympathetic system. And during stress, our whole digestive system is practically put on hold, and peristalsis grinds to a halt. Start your day a bit earlier so you don't have to rush for anything. And use that time to do a guided meditation aiming to improve digestion. There are tons of these videos out there on YouTube. And then try to keep this state of mind longer into the day. Have your one good cup of coffee and hopefully be surprised. Okay, let's move on to the meds and supplements. So we've learned that 25% of our population suffers from constipation, and many of them use laxatives to get relief, not understanding that most of these laxatives and easily accessible over-the-counter meds cause a vicious cycle, leading deeper into chronic constipation. Senna extracts, or Senokot, is the most potent stimulant laxative, and it is marketed heavily as a benign herbal remedy. Senokot, but also Dulcolax, another synthetic drug, both work by increasing movement in the intestine, peristalsis, and their use can be very painful, especially if constipation is already compounded for some time, and then these drugs are now pushing against this dry, hard plug from above. Both of these laxatives also trigger significant loss of fluids. And whenever you produce watery movements, you also lose minerals and electrolytes. And especially the loss of already scarce magnesium will lead into even less natural peristalsis. Remember, calcium is the body's contractor, magnesium is the relaxer. Soon you have to use more laxatives and more frequently to get results. And this is the vicious cycle. All laxatives cause more constipation long term because they make you lose the little magnesium you might still have. And then there are the somewhat more benign osmotic laxatives like Miralax or PEG, lactulose, but also milk of magnesia, magnesium citrate, gastric lavage. And these OTC products are meant to hold or bind water inside the gut lumen, aiming to keep the stool more moist or loose. Side effects always include bloating, cramping, diarrhea, nausea, gas, and long-term also dehydration and loss of minerals. The magnesium in milk of magnesia and mag citrate are only absorbed into the blood to a smaller percentage. Most of this kind of magnesium stays unabsorbed, affecting mostly the gut from the lumen side, from the inside, triggering relaxations and water influx, and with that, again, mineral losses. Magnesium glycinate is much better absorbed and replenishes the body and the gut muscle from the blood side. Magnesium oxide and citrate both address the symptom. Magnesium glycinate aims to fix the cause. Big difference. During my time as a pharmacist, I've spent quite a few years working in Ottawa's largest long-term care and nursing home pharmacy. It blew my mind seeing prescribed laxative regimes of sometimes 5 different laxatives, each prescribed at ever-increasing doses and given every day. Trying to connect to those physicians to discuss alternatives was usually unsuccessful, but sometimes I got lucky and got through. And especially for those patients that still experienced severe constipation despite the use of high-dose laxative combination therapy. In these few cases, we started using our well-absorbed magnesium glycinate in addition to the laxative regime in doses that created looseness, and then slowly reduced the laxatives one by one in small increments while adjusting the magnesium glycinate dose to maintain peristalsis and looseness during this laxative withdrawal. For a nursing home patient, all this had to be orchestrated and prescribed week by week by the physician. So you see, this required a physician that was willing to put in thought and time, because nurses can only administer what was prescribed by a physician. It is a process that can take weeks, but the results were there 100%. Believe me, chronically constipated individuals that finally have a tool to create regularity that further helps to break the vicious cycle and fix the problem, those are some very, very happy customers. The label on my magnesium glycinate calls for 3 capsules a day. That is what Health Canada allows me to put on, reflecting the so-called recommended daily amount for magnesium. The RDA, for the average Canadian. But this RDA dose does not reflect the requirements for someone that is starting out deficient. If you only put that much gas into your tank that gets you from A to B, then once you get to B, your tank is empty again. In other words, if you only provide the average daily requirements of magnesium, you will never replenish and never see full therapeutic results. Individuals that deal with chronic magnesium deficiency conditions like constipation, but also migraines, cramping, chronic pain, diabetes, or insomnia, need to take more than the RDA initially to provide the daily requirements and replenish the deeper tissues. And all I said today practically presents the roadmap to break the vicious cycle of constipation. We could also call this laxative dependency. It's not a quick fix, but I can assure you that chronic constipation can be fixed unless organic or neurological problems or injury or damage are the actual cause. Magnesium glycinate will in any case improve the status and in most cases lead to full resolution. We do have a chronic constipation protocol which we provide to practitioners upon request, especially for those clients already using a variety of laxatives on a regular basis. Okay, now I have prepared a small excursion into IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome. In my opinion, a lazy label of mainstream medicine where doctors do not want to spend the time to investigate the cause. About 5 million Canadians are affected, and again, mainstream medicine gives out this label or diagnose but offers no real treatment either. IBS affects more women than men, and Canada has, for some reason, one of the highest rates of IBS in the world. Doctors usually recommend a colonoscopy, which makes sense because this would rule out any kind of organic issue like an obstruction. But in my experience, there's always a cause for disease. Most IBS individuals suffer from food sensitivities without knowing it, and they are further frequently dealing with bowel overgrowth, which means the wrong flora is inhabiting their system. Many IBS individuals have a hunch about certain food reactivity, but do not act on it. IBS patients experience the seesaw of constipation and diarrhea, and they usually are severely magnesium deficient because of that. They often have a large number of magnesium deficiency symptoms like cramping, headaches, or migraines, sleep issues, twitchy eyelids or muscles, but cannot even tolerate one capsule of magnesium glycinate without getting the runs, because their bowels are so reactive and in a constant state of inflammation. But there's a trick that has helped in this scenario using our pure magnesium glycinate powder, where 1 scoop of powder is equivalent to 1 capsule, and you dissolve 1 scoop of powder into a large bottle of water, or if you already have the capsules, you just open one of them and dissolve in a large bottle of water, and then sip this water over the course of the day. So these small amounts of magnesium in each sip do not trigger bowel reactivity, and you now have a chance to absorb some of the magnesium. And the odd thing that seems to happen quite frequently is after just a few days of consuming 1 scoop over the course of the day, they can all of a sudden tolerate 2 scoops or 2 caps opened, no problem. And then 3 scoops. And for many, it's almost like crashing through a sound barrier after the initial process of gentle daily magnesium increase spread out over the day. They can all of a sudden tolerate quite large daily amounts without bowel reactivity, and many can go back to using capsules. They experience more consistent regularity and benefit from the magnesium finally replenishing other tissues of the body as well. And finally, here's a list of nutrients that are beneficial in chronic constipation and IBS. Yes, number 1 is magnesium glycinate. Vitamin D3 deficiency is strongly linked to chronic functional constipation. We have discussed the benefits of vitamin D3 optimization regarding bone health, mood, and our immune system many times over, and you can add constipation to that list as well. Please check out our vitamin D optimization video on our YouTube channel. Ltheanine slow release for stress management and sleep. And this can be very helpful for someone counteracting high stress hormone levels, allowing the parasympathetic system to re-engage and that way improve gastric juices, peristalsis, and regularity. B-complex vitamins help by stimulating muscle contraction in the digestive system, which is necessary for the movement of stool through the bowels. They also stimulate the production of digestive juices, and one other study concluded deficiency of B-complex vitamins can lead to irregular bowel movements and constipation. So that was it for today's presentation. You made it. I hope everyone is still awake, and at this point I'd like to thank all our participating retail partners that helped promote this event. All of them have specials going on for the next few days in support of this event, and I will now get ready to check if there are any questions. Please just give me a moment. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're up and running. Thank you all for your time. I already have one question here from Sarah. Can you please restate the water intake? Well, we have this old recommendation to use 10 8-ounce glasses per day, which is really truly hard to manage for many of us. Like getting a good look at your current water consumption per day is obviously important, and then trying to double or triple your amounts with certain tricks. It should be no problem to drink a large glass of water with each meal. Just kind of wash down your bites with water, and by the end of the meal that should be done. So you already have 3 large glasses per day. And if you then kind of try and use flavoring agent, natural ones, not these sweetened funny drops that you can buy in the store to kind of make water more tasty with artificial flavors and artificial sweeteners. I'm talking just a squeeze of lemon, a bit of apple juice or any other juice of your choice, and just a little splash into a large glass of water to kind of give you this feeling of better tasting water. Herbal teas can be helpful, but watch out not to use any herbs that actually have diuretic function. Chamomile, peppermint, fennel are easy or good ones to use here. Fennel is also a very interesting stomachicum. It actually helps relax the smooth muscles of the gastrointestinal tract and is practically beneficial for somebody dealing with constipation. So Sarah, I hope that helps. And usually I have a long list of questions right here. Currently there is not a one. We still have a good number of people listening, so if you have questions, just type them in the Q&A section. Goes very it's very easy, because if you don't type them, then we have a very short Q&A session this time, which is sad because it's really the part that I enjoy the most, to get questions from you guys and answer them individually. Well, must have been a very good presentation, because there's still no questions coming. You know that you can re-listen, re-watch this. In a couple of days you'll get the link to the recording. And then you can re-watch and also pass it on to friends and family members. Here's a question from Marilyn. Well, I had this sequent on IBS. She's asking, can you treat IBS similar? I'm not quite sure what the question is, because I explained the way to use the 1 scoop of powder in a large bottle of water, and then sip this water over the course of the day to not overload your very reactive bowels with 1 capsule or 1 scoop and practically too much magnesium coming in. By sipping this magnesium water over the course of the day, the individual increments of magnesium that you're getting into your system should and will not cause irritation and potential laxation. It actually should help you absorb the magnesium in small increments, and then you're slowly breaking through this sound barrier, and you can slowly tolerate increasing amounts of magnesium to the point where you actually experience significant beneficial effects from the replenishment of magnesium into your system, and with that also more regularity. Oops, so here come the questions. Took a while. Connie is asking, can you take too much magnesium daily? That is a good question. Thank you for that. The body has a very natural safety valve, which is our bowel. If you take too much for your system, you will have loose stools, and you will have get into the realm of having watery bowel movements. If you watch out for that, there's no way of getting too much. In fact, because of this safety valve, because of this reaction, if you're consuming too much for your system, too fast, too close together, most of that magnesium gets excreted. So it's almost impossible to reach any kind of dangerous levels of magnesium when taken orally. All the symptoms that you read up on taking or getting too much magnesium practically refer only to the intravenous use of magnesium, or if you had Epsom salt baths all day long while consuming oral amounts of magnesium, which I think is not really a problem. So technically, no, you cannot get too much magnesium if you watch out that once you get too loose bowel movements, that at that point you can dose down and kind of adjust accordingly. Monique is asking about another one of our products containing magnesium glycinate, taurine, and CoQ10. That is a formulation that is designed for cardiovascular health. The magnesium content in our MTQ, magnesium, taurine, CoQ10, is much lower. The taurine in there is there to actually help absorb magnesium deeper into the muscle, into the heart muscle. And ubiquinol, CoQ10, is also there as a cardioprotective antioxidant, and is contained also in a more therapeutic dose taken, and this is probably taken 2 capsules twice daily with breakfast and dinner, and that is to maintain cardiovascular health. It's also very popular with athletes, and they take 2 capsules before exercise or workout or competition, and 2 capsules after to help with regeneration and recovery. And that's what the MTQ, or magnesium taurine CoQ10, is for. A question from Anonymous. Oh, that's quite complex. Question is glycinate better over citrate for aiding the release of biofilm and old stool in autism-related constipation in children? That is complex and it's specific. For the release of biofilm, regularity helps. I think that probiotic support is much more important than drastic bowel movements induced by a laxative like magnesium citrate. I believe that the regularity that you achieve after magnesium is absorbed into the blood is much more healthy and it makes a lot more sense than a drastic bowel movement to cleanse. I have recommended colonics, which is a flushing, cleansing of the colon, where sometimes stool gets dried up and impacted on the inside walls of the colon. I find that very helpful. It might be tricky and difficult with an autistic child to do that, because it's quite an amazing sensation once you get a colonic performed on yourself. It is interesting, and it's most certainly cleansing, and would also aid in the excretion of biofilm. In general, I always rather provide a nutrient that is bioavailable and goes into the blood and then does its job from the inside, than using something that simply triggers symptom relief without kind of making any change on the inside within our system. I hope that helps here. Marion is asking whether I suggest B complex and ltheanine as well. And in the last part of the presentation, I did talk about L-theanine as a stress management tool. If you feel that stress is actually reducing your gastrointestinal activity, and that you're living in a constant stress mode, in a constant fight or flight mode, that you're hungry and you eat while stressed and you feel that it's really just sitting there and nothing's really moving, then obviously working on your stress and stress levels, improving your stress ability, exercise, and magnesium L-theanine is most certainly the way to go. We actually have a stress webinar coming up on September 28th, I believe, where we talk about all kinds of tools to manage stress. I believe that the right kind of daily sports, mindfulness, meditation are very, very helpful here. I believe that objective analysis of your life and your stressors is very helpful, because many of these stressors you could potentially get rid of. I will discuss that then in great detail. And absolutely, magnesium, L-theanine, and bioactive B vitamin complex are very helpful in the greater field of constipation. Vitamin D in optimized amounts is certainly also on that list. Lauren is asking, how much magnesium is safe to give to children? And well, children have smaller bodies and smaller bowels, and for that reason they too will have a response to too much magnesium, just like a grown-up adult. Obviously, the tolerated dose of magnesium that a child can tolerate is much lower than a dose of a deficient 300-pound adult. We actually developed the magnesium bowel tolerance protocol, and from that the chronic constipation protocol, in cooperation with the pain clinic at CHEO, Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, where actually I had many years ago I had a lunch and learn session at the doctor's lounge within the hospital, and I was presenting magnesium glycinate, and after the presentation I practically got cornered by the head physician of the chronic pain clinic at CHEO, because she was giving IV magnesium to kids with chronic pain syndromes, and was hoping to, or was searching for a type of magnesium that can maintain blood levels more efficiently to potentially extend the time between IV session and reduce the necessity for IVs in general, and this way also improve quality of life. So we had a long talk about magnesium glycinate and started working on this project, and actually more or less found this dosing regime that we use in the bowel tolerance protocol or the chronic constipation protocol today. So technically, to answer this question simple and easy, even children can titrate their dose up to the point where they get too loose. At that point, you see how much was consumed at that day. You cut back by about 25%, continue to replenish the deep tissues, and once the body again shows signs of looseness, you dose down again, and at some point you end up at a established maintenance dose for that child that does not cause loose stools, but that body in the meantime got replenished and gastrointestinal function already improved, and movements are much better and looser. I hope that answers that, Lauren. That's a complex question here. That's a question of a person that I talked today on the phone, and I can't really make it out. Maybe Lucy may call me again tomorrow and we discuss this again. I think that would be best, because it's very specific. I'll be in, actually I have a session and meeting tomorrow morning, maybe after 11. Okay. And this is a question from John. I believe that's the John from St. Catherine's. He's asking, how many capsules of magnesium per day to overcome constipation? 3 caps 3 times a day, for example, and then increasing daily amounts until the bowels are loose, That's exactly it. For somebody who is constipated already, chronically constipated, you don't want to start with 1 capsule of magnesium. We know this person needs more. So starting with 3 capsules 3 times a day, 9 total, and stay on that dose for maybe 3-4 days just to see how this is tolerated on consecutive days is fine. And then you start dosing up from there, taking 4-3-3, 4-3-4, 4-4-4, 5-4-4, 5-4-5, and so forth until you reach looseness. And then you take count of your daily total that you needed to become loose, cut back by 25% of that peak dose, and stay there until you get loose again. That is practically the chronic constipation protocol. Sandra is asking, does drinking water with meals dilute your natural digestive enzymes? No, not from my point of view. First of all, enzymes are enzymes, they work, whether they are diluted or not. Enzymes need to get to the food, and water helps. You could argue about this with gastric acid, that any kind of water that you drank with the meal, that it could potentially dilute the acid. But you also have to think that acid can only travel through water. If you have a large meal with not enough water, then the acid is kind of barely mixing in with the food. If that food that you just ate is somewhat more liquid with the water that you drank, then acid can travel through everything with much greater ease. Yeah, it's slightly more diluted, but you're not neutralizing gastric acid with water. Water is neutral to begin with. The amount of acid that you produced does not get reduced by water. It gets only kind of slightly diluted, but I believe that the mixing of water with the food allows for much better mixing of gastric acid and enzymes with the amount of food that is after the meal in your stomach. I hope that explains that. That's that. Anonymous is asking whether a daily dose of psyllium, like Metamucil or other like bulk amounts of psyllium husks, is beneficial, harmful, or irrelevant. It's absolutely beneficial. It's a fantastic natural bulk forming agent, but you have to provide sufficient water with it so that it can swell and does not take moisture from the food, the little moisture that is in there, and then kind of potentially causes even more dryness in general. So whenever you use psyllium, most certainly use it in a large glass of water or with a large glass of water. Another anonymous is asking or saying, I have diarrhea over a long period of time. Could magnesium help me? Well, I believe that with chronic diarrhea, your body is most certainly deficient in magnesium, but you have a hard time getting or keeping it in, because once you add magnesium to your existing situation, you might get looser and looser. I would actually try the magnesium in water trial, where you just either open 1 capsule and put it in a large bottle of water and drink this water over the course of the day. I'm very certain that you will absorb some of that over the course of the day. But I mean, I would ask myself much more urgently as to why you are chronically dealing with chronic diarrhea. Are food sensitivities a factor here? Is there any other chronic inflammatory condition in your bowels? I'm sure you have discussed that with your doctor or naturopath, but you got to investigate deeper as to what the cause is. I would, because you have chronic diarrhea, I would not shy away from magnesium, but I would certainly not start with higher doses, because that will just make diarrhea worse. But if you again try smaller doses spread out over the course of the day, you will benefit from that. We all need the magnesium, and chronic diarrhea certainly does not help your magnesium levels. Here's a question from Donna. And yeah, she was using 1 capsule of magnesium a day and then got the suggestion to double it up to 2 and immediately had loose stools or diarrhea. She actually thought that she would be able to tolerate much higher amounts, but apparently not. And then she's asking for any advice of how I can get more magnesium in her system. Maybe the sipping water with powdered mag would work. I believe so. It's certainly worth a try. And if you have magnesium capsules right now, especially if it's the good glycinate, you can just open them in a large bottle of water and then slowly kind of titrate your intake up and nicely spread it out over the course of the day. You can actually program your phones to ding you every half an hour or hour, and then whenever you ding, you take a good sip of your water and then see how far you can take it. But I believe that in today's world, if somebody has such a drastic reaction by switching from 1 capsule to 2, I believe that there is some kind of bowel issue underlying, that you're actually dealing with a chronically inflamed gastrointestinal tract. And if you look at how you feel, and you might even already have a hunch of which foods are triggering your system. So investigate, find out, and then make changes. You know? That's the only way to really improve there. I believe that there's not a single person on this planet that shouldn't be able to tolerate 2 or 3 or 4 capsules of magnesium a day, because we all need it in such amounts. Monique. It's a long text here. Oh, Monique is asking for a sample. If you go to the retail stores that carry our line, they all have magnesium glycinate samples in stock or can get it for you if you wanted to try it out first. We don't ship samples because shipping today costs $15 to send you like a couple of capsules. No? But yeah, if you're in the area, most retail stores in Ottawa have our complete line, and they also have samples available. John is asking whether our magnesium glycinate powder is the same powder and then our capsules. Absolutely yes. We only use this one kind of formulation. It's a 70-30 blend to bring the magnesium content up to 165 milligrams. 70-30 means 70% is from magnesium glycinate pure, fully reacted. 30% comes from a specific chelated magnesium oxide L-glycine dry chelate. This formula, I actually have written up a whole blog about this. When I started using magnesium glycinate, there was only 2 manufacturers worldwide that made magnesium glycinate, and I picked one of them. I stuck with this manufacturer since then and will do so moving forward, because the results that I received even in the very beginning in the pharmacy were outstanding. I have no reason to make any changes here. And my customers that have been using this specific kind of magnesium glycinate for the last almost 15 years in the pharmacy, and now with Pure Lab vitamins, they would not be too happy if I made any changes. So we'll stick with that. But yeah, it's the same magnesium raw material, but the benefit of the powder also is that we do not need to add any non-medicinal ingredients like cellulose or veggie stearate for the capsule manufacturing. The magnesium powder is pure. Anonymous is asking whether I recommend magnesium for people with fibromyalgia. Absolutely yes. But fibromyalgia is a very complex condition. Individuals with fibromyalgia suffer from very hardened so-called myofascial trigger points. They sometimes have, when you look at the Trevel trigger point charts, fibromyalgia is usually categorized by having at least 8 of the 15 most common trigger points on your bodies. These are super hard spasms of myofascia, and these metabolic lockdown regions are then sending pain patterns into corresponding muscle areas. It's quite complex. I believe that if you are dealing with many of these super hard spasms all over your body, you can take magnesium glycinate, and not much of that will get into the spasm, because this is like, look at my fingers turning white because I'm squeezing hard. They turn white because the blood circulation in this spasm is compromised. So how is the blood supposed to get into this spasm if you can't open up this spasm? It's a vicious cycle, a catch-22. So, like regular, daily, or even more frequently than once daily, stretching to help open up these trigger points is key in treatment of fibromyalgia. No fun, very painful. Deep tissue massage, no fun at all, super painful. But if you were using magnesium glycinate right before a massage session, you would actually have a chance for fresh blood that is high in magnesium to flood into this myofascial trigger point and keep it relaxed. Same with yoga, same with specific stretching exercises, same with using a yoga alpha ball right on the spot. Horribly painful, but you have the chance that these myofascial trigger points actually stay open, stay relaxed, and pain levels drop. It's not an easy fix, but it is a fix. Sarah is asking, can you describe the difference between threonate, magnesium threonate, and glycine and citrate? Magnesium citrate is magnesium bound to an organic acid called citric acid. We make this organic acid within our own biochemistry, within the citric cycle. Technically, there is no need for our bodies to receive citrate as a supplement. It actually is metabolic waste. Why should I bind good magnesium to a metabolic waste molecule and then consume large amounts of it, if there is a better way that has nutritional value, which is magnesium bound to an amino acid? Glycine is the body's smallest amino acid. It can be used anywhere in our biochemistry. It's easily converted into all kinds of other components, part of countless enzymes and protein structures. Glycine has beneficial effects by itself. It's actually a calming amino acid. It's an inhibitory neurotransmitter. It calms us down. It works as a pain inhibitor on the chronic pain receptor, the so-called NMDA receptor. It is anti-inflammatory. It helps with sugar metabolism. The list goes on. So compare that long list to the zero list of citrate, and there you have your answer. So now there is magnesium threonate, which is another amino acid. And there was one single study that was kind of aiming to show that magnesium bound to threonate would actually have, or would bring magnesium into the brain to exert more central relaxing properties of magnesium right in here. And that to me is actually, like, I'm a common sense kind of guy, and I studied pharmacy, chemistry, and biochemistry. It makes no sense to me, and this one study got pushed and published many times over by the manufacturers of magnesium threonate products, but it makes no sense to me because whenever you take an amino acid mineral salt, like magnesium glycinate or magnesium threonate, or zinc glycinate or copper glycinate, the capsule opens in the stomach, the gastric acid dissolves this amino acid salt. That means as soon as the capsule opens and the powder is spilled into the gastric acid stomach juices, you no longer have magnesium glycinate bound, but you have magnesium double plus ions and L-glycine single negative anions. And they float around. And then they get absorbed through the lining of the stomach and the duodenum and the small intestine into the blood. In the blood, the magnesium no longer travels as magnesium glycinate or magnesium threonate. It travels bound to blood proteins like albumins. So this argument or this research finding that magnesium threonate capsules would pass the blood-brain barrier more efficiently than other salts is laughable, because it doesn't travel as magnesium threonate anymore after the capsule opened into the stomach. Magnesium threonate is much more expensive, usually much lower dosed compared to magnesium glycinate, and I do not see the efficacy of this product. Sorry to pop your bubble. Lorene says thank you. Thank you, Lorene. Then she asks another question. Good. For people taking magnesium and L-theanine to help fall asleep, how much time would they allow for the supplement to take effect? To fall asleep, I would use magnesium glycinate, your nighttime dose, about 30 minutes before lights out, and the same with L-theanine. You could use regular L-theanine, the 250 milligram capsules that we have, for that purpose if the problem is just falling asleep. For somebody who has troubles falling asleep and staying asleep, I would use the slow release capsules, and you could, for example, take your magnesium and a regular L-theanine slow release about 30 minutes before bedtime, and then to last longer through the night, take another portion of both magnesium and L-theanine slow release right at bedtime, right at lights out, to kind of so that you have blood levels active by the time you switch off the light, and you have more calming and relaxing capacity flooding in while you fall asleep, so that it lasts longer through the night. Hope that helps. Yeah. And then John is asking, what is the difference between magnesium bisglycinate and magnesium glycinate? There is practically no difference, because magnesium, if it is reacted, is a bivalent mineral. That means it has two binding sites, where glycine or glycinate is a monovalent amino acid. So one magnesium glycinate can bind one magnesium can bind two glycinates. Bis is the nomenclature term for two. That's all that is. I believe this is a politicum, because in North America, especially in the United States of America, economical power is exerted by suing each other or suing competitor companies. There's one big company in the US that kind of has secured the term bisglycinate to their product, and nobody else is daring to call their own product bisglycinate as well, out of fear of being sued. A good magnesium glycinate is a bisglycinate. A good bisglycinate is a magnesium glycinate. It's irrelevant as long as you have good quality. Another question, a longer one from Anonymous. She's asking whether glycinate can be given with food. It's about providing this in mixture with food to an autistic daughter. Absolutely, there's no problem. Magnesium glycinate actually is slightly sweet tasting, even though I've heard of kids that have tasted it out of many different foods. But you could technically mix it into mashed potatoes, applesauce. You can try tea, coffee, and practically any drink out there. You can try dairy, even though dairy contains calcium, but at least you get the magnesium into your daughter, like yogurt or kefir or milk even. There's no restriction on what to use it with. One interesting observation, though, I find very, very funny in a way. Blueberries contain a blue-colored antioxidant called astaxanthin, I believe. And anyways, if you mix magnesium powder into a blueberry smoothie, the blueberry turns into a green berry, because the magnesium bound to this blue dye within the blueberry changes the electromagnetic consistency of that blue molecule, and it turns green. It doesn't change the properties of the blueberry, it just changes the color of the blue in the blueberry. That's just an anecdote on the side. So yeah, try out with any kind of food that works for your daughter. Well, that's interesting. Another anonymous question. Does a person without colon have to watch magnesium glycinate and other products? I believe that absolutely yes, for a very simple reason. A good portion of our mineral absorption actually happens in the colon normally, because the colon is an organ that actually draws out the residue moisture out of the food moving through the small intestine, and with that a lot of minerals get absorbed in the colon. So if you no longer have a colon because of surgery and chronic disease from before, you have to find mineral and vitamin sources that are very easy to absorb even in the stomach and the small intestines, because otherwise you get none of it. So in this scenario, you would want to stay clear of citrate, oxide, and any other form or salt form of magnesium or other minerals, and you would stick with amino acid salts because their absorption is proven to be better compared to organic acid salts of minerals. I would most certainly supplement with B complex vitamins. I would most certainly supplement with the whole range of vitamins, because the absorption of food-sourced vitamins is already compromised and reduced because of the loss of the colon. So you got to add extra in it into your daily regimes to make sure that you're at least absorbing a portion of that and getting it. So I hope that answers that. Good. I think we're at the end. 22 questions in quick succession. Thank you very much for your time and interest. Once again, the next webinar, we're making a bit of a summer break now, is September 28th. We're talking about stress management and anxiety. It'll be advertised as usual, so you will not be able to miss it. And I hope this was of value to you, and see you next time. Thank you.